They mocked the poor cleaner in front of the entire company. Even the CEO's daughter laughed at her. Nobody knew her name. Nobody cared about her pain. But one night, one mistake, changed everything. Because the drunk man she helped that night was the same billionaire everyone in that building was afraid of. And by morning, her whole life would never be the same again. Welcome back to SM Stories. If you love emotional stories, stories about love, pain, and second chances, then you are in the right place. Before we start, subscribe to SM Stories so you never miss a story like this again. Now, let's begin. Her name was Amara. She was 26 years old. She worked as a cleaner at Okafor Towers, the tallest building in Lagos. She mopped floors nobody thanked her for. She emptied trash nobody noticed. To the people in that building, she was invisible. Every morning, she wore the same gray uniform. Every morning, she kept her head down. Not because she was weak, but because she had learned something painful a long time ago. Nobody respects a poor woman in this city. Her mother used to say that to her. Her mother was gone now. Her father left when she was 7. She grew up in a small room in Ajagunal, sharing one bed with her younger brother, Chitty. Chitty was 16. He was sick. Not the kind of sick that goes away with rest. The kind of sick that needs money. Real money. Hospital money. Amara worked 2 jobs to pay for his medicine. During the day, she cleaned offices. At night, she cleaned a restaurant kitchen. She barely slept. She barely ate. But she never complained. I only wanted peace, she would whisper to herself at night. I only wanted peace for my brother. One afternoon, the CEO's daughter, Ifeoma, walked past her with her expensive friends. Amara was on her knees, wiping a spilled drink from the marble floor. Ifeoma looked down at her like she was nothing. Watch where you're kneeling, Ifeoma said, laughing. Some of us have real jobs to get to. Her friends laughed too. Amara said nothing. She just kept wiping the floor. You see this? Ifeoma said to her friends, pointing at Amara like she was an object. This is what happens when you don't try in life. Amara's hands were shaking. Not from anger, from humiliation. But she stayed quiet. She had learned that silence was safer than pride. That night, on her way home, she passed a small church. She stopped outside it, looked up at the sky, and whispered, God, I am tired. Please, just give me one chance. She didn't know that chance was closer than she thought. It was almost midnight. Amara was doing her last round on the executive floor, the one place she rarely cleaned, because it belonged to the owner of the company, a man nobody had ever really seen up close. His name was on every wall, Kingsley Okafor, but his face was a mystery to most staff. He worked from his private office upstairs and traveled often. People said he was cold, distant, powerful, untouchable. As Amara turned the corner, she saw a man slumped against the wall, a bottle in his hand, his tie loose around his neck. She froze. Sir, are you okay? He lifted his head slowly. His eyes were tired, red, lost. Everyone left, he mumbled. Everyone always leaves. Amara hesitated. Then she did what her heart told her to do. She helped him up. Come, let me help you sit down properly. You cannot lie on the floor like this. He didn't argue. He let her guide him to a small chair near the window. Why are you helping me? He asked, his voice heavy with alcohol and something deeper. Something like grief. Because nobody should be alone when they are hurting, Amara said softly. Even if I don't know you. He looked at her for a long moment. Really looked at her. Not like the others did. Not like she was invisible. You're kind, he said. The world doesn't have enough people like you. She smiled gently. The world just forgets to look sometimes. He laughed weakly. It was the first real laugh he'd had in months. They talked. Not about business. Not about money. About small things. About pain. About being tired of pretending to be strong. Amara didn't know who he truly was. To her, he was just a broken man who needed someone to sit with him for one night. Somewhere in that quiet hallway, between exhaustion and honesty, something happened that neither of them planned. A closeness, a comfort, a mistake, some would call it later. But that night, it felt like the only real thing in both their lonely lives. By morning, he was gone. No note. No name exchanged. Just an empty chair and a memory Amara wasn't sure was even real. It was probably nothing to him, she told herself, walking home in the early morning light. Rich men forget faces like mine. She had no idea that morning would set fire to everything. 3 weeks later, Amara stood in front of a mirror in her small room, her hands trembling. She was pregnant. Her first thought wasn't fear. It was her brother. "How will I take care of a baby and Chitty's hospital bills?" she whispered. She didn't know the father's name. She didn't know where to find him. All she remembered was a tired, broken man in a hallway who had looked at her like she mattered. She kept working. She kept hiding her secret. She kept wiping floors while her heart carried a storm no one could see. Then one morning, everything at Okafor Towers changed. Black cars lined the entrance. Security tightened. Staff whispered nervously, "He's coming back." "Who?" Amara asked a fellow cleaner. "Mr. Okafor, the owner. He's been away for weeks. Something happened to him, they say. Now he's back, and apparently, he's looking for someone." Amara's chest tightened, but she pushed the thought away. It couldn't be him. It couldn't be that man from the hallway. Rich men like Kingsley Okafor didn't get drunk alone in hallways. Did they? She kept mopping the lobby floor, trying to stay invisible, the way she always did. Then she heard heavy footsteps stop right in front of her. Amara. She looked up, and her whole body went cold. It was him, the man from the hallway. Except now, he wasn't wearing a loose tie and tired eyes. He was wearing a tailored suit, surrounded by assistants, security guards standing a respectful distance behind him. He was Kingsley Okafor, the owner of the entire company. Ifeoma, who was standing nearby with her friends, burst out laughing. Wait. You know the cleaner's name, Kingsley? That's actually hilarious." But Kingsley wasn't laughing. His eyes never left Amara's face. "I've been looking for you," he said quietly. "For 3 weeks." The lobby went silent. Everyone stared. Amara's mop nearly slipped from her hands. "I don't understand," she whispered. "I need to talk to you," Kingsley said. "Please." Ifeoma stepped forward, her face twisted in disgust. "Kingsley, this is embarrassing. She's a cleaner. Whatever this is, end it." Kingsley turned to her, his voice suddenly sharp and cold. "Know your place, Ifeoma." The whole lobby gasped. Nobody had ever heard him speak like that to the CEO's daughter, the woman everyone assumed he would eventually marry to merge 2 powerful families. Amara stood there, humiliated, confused, and terrified all at once. "You married poverty," Ifeoma hissed under her breath, glaring at Amara. "Everyone will laugh at you." Amara lowered her head. The old shame returned. But this time, someone was standing beside her. Kingsley led Amara to a private office upstairs. Away from the stairs. Away from the whispers. "I need to explain something," he said, his hands shaking slightly. "That night, I wasn't myself. My father had just died. The company was falling apart in my hands. I felt like I was drowning, and everyone around me only cared about my money, not me." Amara listened quietly. "But you," he continued, "you didn't know who I was. You still helped me. You still sat with me. Nobody has done that for me in years. I didn't do it for anything in return," Amara said softly. "I did it because it was right." Kingsley looked at her, his eyes full of something raw. "I know. That's why I've been looking for you." Amara took a deep breath. It was time. "I'm pregnant," she said quietly. The room went silent. Kingsley's face changed, not with anger, but with something closer to disbelief and hope. "Is it?" "Yes," Amara said. "It's yours." He sat down slowly, running his hands over his face. Then he looked up at her with a seriousness that surprised her. "Then we will figure this out. Together. You don't have to pretend to care," Amara said, her voice breaking slightly. "I don't need your money. I just need to take care of my child and my brother." "I'm not pretending," Kingsley said firmly. "I don't know what this is yet, but I know I'm not walking away from you or this child." Outside that office, Ifeoma was already spreading her version of the story to the entire building. She trapped him. Poor girls always find a way to trap rich men, she told her friends, loud enough for others to hear. She probably planned this from the beginning. Word spread through Okafor Towers like wildfire. By the end of the day, everyone had an opinion about the cleaner and the billionaire. Kingsley insisted Amara move into a modest apartment, not the mansion, just something safe and comfortable. She hesitated at first. I don't want people to think I'm after your money, she said. I don't care what people think anymore, Kingsley replied. I only care if you're safe. In the weeks that followed, something quiet and beautiful began to grow between them. Kingsley visited her apartment in the evenings, away from cameras, away from judgment. He brought Chitty's hospital records to his personal doctor. Within days, Chitty was receiving the treatment he desperately needed. Why are you doing all this? Chitty asked him one evening, weak but smiling. Because your sister showed me kindness when she had every reason not to, Kingsley said. I'm just returning it. In the small living room, Kingsley and Amara would sit for hours, talking about nothing and everything. No business talk, no pressure, just two wounded people slowly learning to trust again. You don't have to prove anything to me, Amara told him one night. I don't need the mansion, or the cars, or the company. I just need someone who won't leave when things get hard. Kingsley took her hand gently. I'm not leaving, Amara. Not this time. For the first time in years, Amara allowed herself to hope. But peace never lasts long in stories like this. Ifeoma wasn't finished. Her family had built years of business alliances around the idea that she would one day marry Kingsley. Losing that future to a nobody cleaner was something she refused to accept. She invited Amara to a private lunch, pretending to make peace. I just want to understand you, Ifeoma said sweetly, in front of two other board members' wives. How does someone like you plan to survive in Kingsley's world? You don't even know which fork to use. The table laughed softly. Amara stayed calm. I don't need forks to know how to love someone honestly. Ifeoma's smile tightened. Love doesn't pay company shareholders, sweetheart. Reputation does. And right now, you're a stain on this family's reputation. Amara excused herself quietly, holding back tears until she reached the restroom. That evening, at a company charity gala, things grew worse. Kingsley arrived with Amara on his arm, elegant in a simple navy dress. Whispers filled the hall instantly. Isn't that the cleaner? I heard she trapped him with a baby. Kingsley could have had anyone, and he chose her. Ifeoma approached them at the center of the hall, her voice loud enough for the cameras nearby to catch. Everyone, let's give a round of applause, she announced sarcastically, for our very own modern-day fairy tale. The billionaire and his cleaner. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Amara's face burned with humiliation, but she stood tall beside Kingsley. Kingsley's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. Careful, Ifeoma. You're standing in a room my family built. Watch how you speak in it. The room fell silent. But Ifeoma wasn't done yet. Not even close. As weeks passed, small things began to shift inside Okafor Towers. Staff who once ignored Amara now greeted her politely, almost nervously. Security guards opened doors for her without being asked. Executives who once looked past her now avoided direct eye contact. Amara noticed, but didn't understand why. One afternoon, she overheard two board members whispering near the elevator. If Kingsley truly marries her, she becomes the next major shareholder, one said. Do you understand what that means? She would have more power than half of us combined. Amara froze. She had no idea her relationship with Kingsley carried that kind of weight. Later that night, she asked him directly, why does everyone seem afraid now? Like something bigger is happening. Kingsley hesitated before answering. Because when my father passed, control of this company didn't just fall to me. It's tied to family bonds, marriage, inheritance laws my father set decades ago. If I marry, my wife automatically becomes an equal partner in this empire. Amara's chest tightened. So this whole time, Ifeoma wasn't just losing you. She was losing everything she was promised. Kingsley nodded slowly. Exactly. And people like Ifeoma don't lose quietly. That single conversation planted a seed of fear in Amara's heart. She wasn't just fighting for love anymore. She was standing in the middle of a war for power she never asked to be part of. The company's annual shareholders' banquet was the biggest event of the year, held in the grand ballroom of the Eco Royal Hotel. Every important figure in Lagos business circles would be present. Ifeoma saw her final opportunity. Midway through the event, she took the microphone, smiling sweetly at the crowd. Before we continue, I think it's important the board understands exactly who might be joining this family, she said, looking directly at Amara. A woman with no education, no business background, and let's be honest, no real love for Kingsley. Just excellent timing. Gasps spread through the room. Amara's hands trembled under the table. Tell them the truth. Ifeoma continued, her voice sharp. You got pregnant by a drunk stranger, and now you expect all of us to hand you an empire. The room buzzed with whispers. Kingsley stood up slowly, his face calm but dangerously serious. That's enough, Ifeoma. No, she snapped. Let everyone see clearly. This is what happens when powerful men make emotional decisions instead of smart ones. Just as tension in the room reached its peak, the large ballroom doors opened. A tall, elderly woman walked in, escorted by two private guards. The room fell into immediate, respectful silence. It was Grace Okafor, Kingsley's grandmother, the true matriarch of the Okafor family, rarely seen in public, but respected by everyone in the room. Grandmother, Kingsley said, stunned. Grace walked slowly toward the front, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on Amara. I heard there was a woman in this family being humiliated tonight, Grace said calmly. I wanted to see who had the courage to disrespect my future granddaughter-in-law in public. The room gasped. Ifeoma's face went pale. Grandmother, I was simply... Silence, Grace said sharply. I know exactly what you were doing. She turned to Amara, her expression softening. My grandson called me weeks ago. Not about business. Not about the company. He called me crying, telling me about a woman who sat with him during his darkest night, expecting nothing in return. The room was utterly silent now. You called her a nobody, Grace continued, looking directly at Ifeoma. But she showed my grandson more loyalty in one night than you showed him in 10 years of pretending to love him for this family's name. Ifeoma's hands trembled. The people who had laughed with her earlier now avoided her gaze entirely. Grace turned back to the crowd. This woman is not marrying into power. She already carries something far more valuable than this company. Integrity. The room erupted into applause. Not for Ifeoma, not for wealth, but for Amara. Despite the public victory, Amara felt hollow that night. She sat alone on the hotel balcony, staring at the city lights. Kingsley found her there. You should be proud, he said gently. You stood tall in there. I'm tired, Kingsley, she admitted. Tired of being tested. Tired of proving my worth to people who already decided I don't belong. Kingsley sat beside her quietly. I know I brought chaos into your life. If I could take back that night I got drunk and reckless, I... Don't, Amara interrupted softly. That night gave me the only kindness I'd felt in years, even if it started in a broken moment. I love you, Kingsley said suddenly, his voice trembling slightly. Not because of the baby, not because of guilt, because every day since that morning, you've shown me what real strength looks like. Amara's eyes filled with tears. I was scared to believe that. Believe it, Kingsley said, taking her hand. I'm not choosing you because it's convenient. I'm choosing you because for the first time in my life, someone loved me without knowing what I owned. For a long moment, they simply sat together, silence replacing years of loneliness for both of them. In the weeks following the banquet, Ifeoma's public image collapsed. Business partners who once respected her began distancing themselves. uncomfortable with her cruelty being displayed so publicly. One evening, she arrived at Amara's apartment, unannounced. Amara opened the door cautiously. "Ifioma, I'm not here to fight," Ifioma said quietly, her usual arrogance gone. "I came to apologize." Amara stepped aside, letting her in. "I spent my whole life being taught that love was about status," Ifioma admitted, sitting down slowly. "That marrying well meant marrying up, not marrying real. I was never taught what you clearly already knew." "What's that?" Amara asked gently. "That love isn't about what someone can give you," Ifioma said, her voice breaking. "It's about who stays when there's nothing to gain." Amara reached out and touched her hand gently. It's never too late to learn that. For the first time since they'd met, Ifioma allowed herself to cry in front of her rival. No cameras, no audience. Just two women finally being honest with each other. Months later, under a sky painted gold with sunset, Amara and Kingsley stood together in a simple, elegant ceremony at the Okafor family compound. No extravagant decorations. No forced grandeur. Just close family, real friends, and quiet joy. Grace Okafor stood proudly beside them. Chitty, healthy and strong now, stood as Amara's best man, tears in his eyes as he watched his sister glow with happiness she never thought she deserved. Even Ifioma attended, standing quietly near the back, genuinely smiling for the first time in the entire story. As Amara and Kingsley exchanged vows, Kingsley whispered something only she could hear. "You were the bride they threw away as nothing. Now you stand here as everything." Amara smiled through her tears. "I only ever wanted peace." "And love," Kingsley added softly. "And love," she agreed. They once called her invisible. They once called her a mistake. But in the end, the poor cleaner didn't just win a billionaire's heart. She reminded an entire empire what real love looks like. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to SM Stories. More emotional stories like this one are coming every week. Comment below and tell us which part moved you the most. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.